terrorized until the very end. These were the crowds that faced 3 Israeli hostages over the weekend after 471 days in enemy hands. The 3 women, and forgive my pronunciation, but I'll try, Romy Gonen, Doron Steinbrecher, and Emily Damari, were escorted by Hamas terrorists through raucous crowds into the hands of the Red Cross and then finally freed from Gaza. The women were given a checkup before first being reunited with their mothers and then the rest of their families and other loved ones. Now, the hostage-prisoner swap deal and ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has both Biden and Trump vying for credit. While there are still over 90 hostages kidnapped during the October 7th massacre who remain in need of rescue, there is a growing chorus of voices who say this deal is no good because they say it gives too much to the terrorists. Joining us now to discuss is journalist and author Bethany Mandel. Bethany, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me and for talking about this, especially on a day where there's a lot of other things going on.
There is, but it was really important. I saw the images coming out over the weekend, and I figured you'd be the best to talk about because I know this must be a very emotional time for you. You've done so much work behind the scenes when it comes to the hostages and trying to get them freed and talking to friends and family and really keeping them at the forefront of people's minds. So what are you feeling seeing this first batch of hostages released?
It's just overwhelming relief. Emily Damari was taken from Kfar Aza from her home, as was Doron Steinbrecher, and Emily is a joint UK citizen. Her mother is from England, and she just pounded the pavement in England, trying to get the government to care, trying to get the people to care, trying to get the media to care. And it was so disturbing, and it really spoke to the level of anti-Semitism in England that she was mostly unsuccessful. Her mother couldn't get the British people to care that one of their own citizens was being held hostage in Gaza. All of these young women had really difficult, heartbreaking stories. And we're starting to learn about, the conditions that they were kept in. And it boggles the mind that they came out of there. And I'm so thrilled that they're safe. And we're now learning, the trauma that they were subjected to over the course of 471 days, knowing that there are still 94 hostages being kept there. And we don't know how many of those are alive or dead.
Yeah, and as you were talking about, especially being a hostage in general in the hands of Hamas, but imagine being a woman, a female hostage in the hands of Hamas. It adds, that extra layer of just horror. Men and women are different, right? That's what we try and talk about a lot on the conservative side, that men and women are different. And part of what that means for women is we have particular vulnerabilities when it comes to male kidnappers. And so I use that to try and set up the fact that, as you're talking about on your timeline as well, that one of the women who was released over the weekend, I think it was her sister, right, who went on the Hill, and I think it was Brianna Joy Gray, who kind of came to some fame with being the press secretary for Bernie Sanders in one of his failed presidential campaigns. But she infamously, if any viewer remembers, when this woman was talking about what her sister and others went through, Brianna just rolled her eyes, right? So can you talk to us about that situation and what it speaks to in a larger, as you were talking about, societal context?
Yeah. So Romy Gonen was taken. She's 24 years old. She was taken from the Nova Festival, and her sister Yarden was just absolutely ceaseless in her efforts to get her sister rescued. And behind the scenes, I've been helping with communication strategy and booking for some of these families, writing op-eds, placing them. And the Hill actually came to me and said, we'd really like to have a hostage family on air. Can you help us facilitate that? And I said, no. I have seen how Brianna Joy Gray talks about the victimization of women during the October 7th massacre, and I don't trust her. And then several months later, I saw Romy's sister Yarden on air, and I saw the exchange, and I saw that Brianna Joy Gray rolled her eyes at Yarden. And thank God the Hill finally took her anti-Semitism seriously, and they fired her. And I saw Yarden 6 months later, and I said to her, I have to know, who booked that for you? What were they thinking? And she said, oh, no. I went into that with eyes wide open. I was trying for months to get on that show because I saw how she was gaslighting all of her viewers about the real threat and what had already happened on October 7th of sexual assault against these young Israeli women. And I wanted her to say it to my face, and I wanted her to look me in the eyes, knowing that my sister was in the hands of these absolute barbarians. And she rolled her eyes at me. And I was so blown away by Yarden's bravery and courage. and I was so thrilled to see her hugging Romy. I know that Romy was so brave throughout her captivity, and Yarden was too, and she fought the battles on the outside while Romy fought them on the inside.